What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content for you guys, and we will be talking about the manager situation today. And obviously the name Arne Slot is on everyone's lips at the moment. But just before we get into that, I want to talk about a couple of updates from Fabrizio Romano regarding Julian Nagelsmann and the manager situation. And it's quite interesting once we read this to lead on to the Arne Slot things. But Romano said yesterday that Nagelsmann was open to Spurs' job, but he wanted a director of football to be together with him on the daily job to support his ideas. This is why talks have stopped. Then he went on to say that Tottenham have decided not to proceed and have decided to appoint a director of football first and then decide on a manager, not to decide with the manager on the director. It's the opposite concept. For Nagelsmann, the only case was to reopen talks if Tottenham renegotiate a director of football for him. So, having said that, it looks as though Spurs are very much on the way to appointing Arne Slot, and the talks seem like they're gathering pace. First of all, what's your reaction to that? And
I mean, that's the correct course of action. Spurs should go for a sporting director and then look for a manager. So I'm not completely unhappy with that. That does kind of imply that.
That's what we've been saying.
Yeah, that does kind of imply as well that theoretically, Nagelsmann shouldn't be off the table once we appoint a sporting director. The odd thing is, they put out all that news a week ago saying he's not under consideration, all these different things, and now we're saying we're not going to appoint a manager before we appoint a sporting director. So who's making these decisions then? That he's not under consideration. We're not going to talk to him. Who's talking to these managers if we don't have a sporting director? I think the whole thing is a complete mess. Very, very odd. There's no coherent strategy in place.
Well, it's clear who's talking to them. I mean, we've seen and we've heard in the past that Scott Munn and Daniel Levy have been travelling out to Germany, have been travelling and talking to people, so it's obviously going to be them.
But all these messaging coming out the club is completely conflicting. It makes absolutely no sense,
and it has been for years. Let's be honest.
Yeah, but this is case in point. They're trying to. This is right now. They're trying to prove to the fans who are very disgruntled and very unhappy with how they're running the club. They're trying to prove to the fans that going forward we are going to change. We do have a plan. All these different things, and yet in the midst of that, they're putting in this mixed messaging about, look, we're going to hire a sporting director first, and then we're going to appoint a manager, but we're not going to talk to Nagelsmann because he wants a sporting director first, so he's not under consideration. But we are going to talk to other managers even before we appoint a sporting director. But we're no closer to hiring a sporting director. But it's a complete no one knows what's going on, it seems. And if they're trying to improve communication to the fans, and they're doing a pretty shit job, to be honest.
Look, you're absolutely spot on, because they are doing an absolute terrible job. Romano also said today that there was no fresh talks between Tottenham and Julian Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann wanted a director of football to be together with him. In the end, Tottenham decided not to proceed with that and go with a different idea to choose a director and then a manager. So the situation has not changed.
Unless that implies that Nagelsmann is demanding a certain sporting director and they're not going for that sporting director, and so that's where negotiations have ended. Unless that's where it's implying, which I guess is fair enough. You shouldn't be beholden to a manager who's demanding a sporting director if you don't want that sporting director. That's kind of fair, but at the same time, you should also wait until you have a sporting director in and see what he can do in terms of discussions with Nagelsmann, not make any decisions.
Yeah, no, it's true. I always thought when all this Nagelsmann news was coming out saying that, you know, he wanted a sporting director and he's not going to talk to the club until we do sign a sporting director. It did kind of make me think that once we do get a sporting director, if that sporting director does want a Julian Nagelsmann, then talks can reconvene with that. But what the news coming out of everywhere today, after that news from Romano yesterday saying that we're not going to talk about a manager until we have a sporting director, everyone seems to be having Arne Slot's name on their lips at the moment. Telegraph are reporting that Rafaela Pimenta, the agent of Arne Slot, will meet with Feyenoord's leadership to discuss a potential move to Tottenham. Pimenta will begin exploring what conditions will be required to allow Slot to leave for Feyenoord. Sky Sports saying the same thing, that Arne Slot's agent is set to tell Feyenoord he wants to speak to Tottenham and discuss how to get him out of a Feyenoord contract. Romano says that Arne Slot remains Tottenham's concrete option to become head coach. Enrique, Amorim and Postecoglou do remain on Daniel Levy's list. Jack Pickbrook saying that Tottenham are preparing a formal approach to Feyenoord for Arne Slot. Sammy Mockbell saying that Tottenham might have to fork out more than the anticipated $6 million compensation fee for Arne Slot, since he also wants to bring in coaches Marino Pusic and Sip Hulsoff with him to North London. Feyenoord are already bracing themselves for Arne Slot's agent to tell them whether he wants to leave for Tottenham when talks take place on Wednesday. And finally, Gary Jacobs saying that Arne Slot is keen to join Tottenham if offered the chance.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. None of this, I mean, none of the other stuff about in terms of it's going to cost more than 6 million to get all these other staff in, and that Arne Slot would be very keen to join Tottenham. That doesn't surprise me. But the whole thing yesterday is just contradictory to what we're hearing from Romano. Spurs want to go in the direction of hiring a sporting director first, and so we're ruling out Nagelsmann because he wants a sporting director, and yet we're prepared to make a formal offer for Slot before we have a sporting director. It makes absolutely no sense. Who's deciding to make a formal offer for Slot? Is it Levy? Is it Munn? Is it have they got a sporting director in, but they're not saying? Who was reporting that Tottenham aren't looking for a sporting director, but a head of recruitment instead? I read that as well the other day. I can't remember who reported it. I read that the other day. So what's the truth? If it is a head of recruitment, then I guess it does make sense that we can go for an Arne Slot without hiring a director of football, because if it's just a recruitment someone, then he can work with whoever manager's coming in just to decide who they want to sign. But even then, in theory, you probably want to sign them before a manager anyway. But look, Arne Slot would be an exciting appointment. I think he does. He's an exciting manager. He plays good football. I'm not against his appointment per se. I'm just really against how we're going about it in terms of the mixed messaging, the lack of planning, again, it seems, going into this signing, and what kind of direction we think we're heading. Because I don't want to be in another situation where Slot gets hired and then we hire a different director of football or something else happens, and all of a sudden there's a bit of tension or a bit of conflict where everyone should be on the same page at the get-go.
The whole thing is just a complete mess at the end of the day. Like, what you're saying is, like, look, there could be potential that they're talking to some sporting directors in the background and they're asking them if Arne Slot would be a good manager for us. But we heard only yesterday that the Feyenoord technical director literally turned us down yesterday. So, I mean, how many different sporting directors do you reckon they're talking to and gathering information from? How many could it be? It's ridiculous.
We shouldn't be making any formal approaches or any formal offers until everything is settled and everything is there in place for this new manager to walk into, and the discussions have been had and everyone knows what direction we're going in and what we want to do going forward, who we want to be, what kind of football we want to play, what kind of players we want to bring in. That should be decided before we make formal approaches, and right now it doesn't seem that it is. It just seems like we're still leaping from different sporting director to different sporting director. We're still not sure of our direction, and it seems as though we're kind of hoping a manager will come in and decide all that for us. And I think that is not how the top clubs are run right now.
They're going on the advice of Rafa van der Vaart. This is what this is.
Who said, I hate data. Any data people in football I need to leave in the next 3 years.
Literally, you know what it is, yeah? They Spurs came out with, the line from Spurs were yesterday that Spurs are going to go for a more data-driven analytics of recruitment. And then they asked Van der Vaart, who literally just went on record saying, I hate data. Do you think Arne Slot will be a good appointment?
And he said, I give him the biggest green light you can ever see for Arne Slot. So maybe Arne Slot hates data, I don't know. But look, I just think as much as I do I want to be in a position where I'm excited by Arne Slot coming in, and I look, once he does get appointed, obviously I'm going to get behind him, of course, and I'm going to want the best for him. But I'm just looking at the whole situation at Tottenham and what they say they're doing and what they say they want to do and what they're actually doing just seem to be completely conflicting.
You know what this stinks of? You know what this stinks of? Back in that managerial search, 71 days, whatever it was back then, before Paratici came on board, we had Fonseca lined up, ready to go. Paratici comes in, list ripped up, and a new list gets put on the table. What is that? What is stopping that happening again?
Yeah, but we that's absolutely right. But the thing is as well, we also went for different managers even before Fonseca. We just couldn't get them over the line. What would happen if we did get them over the line and then Paratici comes in and he's already appointed? Like, what would have then happened? Would Paratici have been happy with that situation? That he wasn't able to have any say in the new manager appointment. Like, I just think that our house still is not in order right now, and we need to make sure that we're doing the right things, and we don't seem to be doing that. We need to just do what we're saying we're going to do, which is appoint a sporting director first, and then go for the manager. At the moment, we can't even keep to our word within a few days. So
within 24 hours, it's ridiculous.
It's mind-boggling, actually mind-boggling with this football club, and I just don't understand how anyone can sit here and think that they have a coherent kind of plan when it comes to the footballing side of things. It just doesn't seem like they do.
Well, happy birthday anyway.
Thank you. Brilliant birthday present. I'm absolutely delighted coming into it. Spurs know how to ruin my day in more ways than one. But let's hope that we figure it out somehow. But it just seems that, again, this club and this ownership are doing things the wrong way, and it just plays into the narrative.
Unless there's just all this noise coming out the media, and the media just getting complete wrong end of the stick, that could also be a situation.
But the same people, they've been feeding information about Nagelsmann, about how they're not pursuing him, and the same people they're feeding information to about Arne Slot. So if we either we believe both of them, we don't believe either of them. You know what I mean? And it does seem to be directly from the club.
Yeah, it seems that way. But I think, like always, you got to take what's in the media with a bit of a pinch of salt. You know what I mean? Like, not always you got to believe it word for word, even though that's the only thing that we can go on.
Obviously, there's always going to be information we're not privy to. But I think as well, when these people say things, I think at the time anyway, especially when it's coming from these kind of sources who clearly have good links at the club, I think you have to take it seriously.
Yeah. But this is the state of Tottenham Hotspur. This is where bad leadership year on, year out will lead you, you know, not knowing whether you're coming or going. That's where you are as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. I think that everyone can agree, or definitely my way of thinking is Arne Slot would be a brilliant appointment for Tottenham. I think he'll be an exciting appointment. But it literally means nothing if we've got no planning from the top at this football club.
Do it in the right way.
Exactly.
Then put plans in place to make sure that we're on a successful path. Right now, it just, again, as much as I want to be a slut for slot, as they say, I do. But unfortunately, like, unless there's a clear direction before he's appointed, it's only going to play in on the fears of the fans that there was a lack of direction when Mourinho and Conte was appointed as well. And is that going to go in the same direction?
Yeah. And only yesterday as well, we heard coming out of the media saying, Nagelsmann's back on. Yeah. Nagelsmann's off again. I mean,
why is he? But it makes no sense why he's on or off right now. It makes no sense. No one should be.
Yeah, absolutely spot on. But that is the situation on Arne Slot, the situation on Julian Nagelsmann and the sporting director. Let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are on the whole situation. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Big up to Sim as well. Happy birthday to Sim.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all very soon. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.